Hey you guys, welcome back to my channel. So I know it's right before Christmas and this is probably typically when everyone is posting a lot of Christmas content. I know it's not maybe decorating and things like that, but I don't really have a lot of Christmas stuff to share right now. So what I'm going to do is I have some stuff that's been on my mind to share, and that's what I'm going to do while I show you these videos of just things I've been doing this week. It's just a lot of random stuff, just some housework, and I've been working on painting my son's house because he's getting ready to sell it and buy a new house. And I do have just some last minute Christmas presents to wrap and things like that. But for the most part, right now, I'm just kind of in this weird limbo week right before Christmas where I'm done getting ready for Christmas for the most part, which has been such a blessing the last few years that I've gotten ready earlier, because each year, the last couple of years, I've had some things come up that are non-Christmas related that just, were extra things. So I'm really glad that I had Christmas done earlier. It really helped me to get ready for Christmas Day. So that's been a blessing from past Nicole for future Nicole to help me get ready. So anyway, so during this week, I'm really just trying to stay on top of the housework and things like that, so that way it doesn't get too out of control. So that way when Christmas Day gets here, I'm not like feeling the need to do this mad rush clean. And I really did want to get a lot more deep cleaning done than I am right now. But honestly, at this point, I'm just happy to be having the house picked up at all. So what I'm going to talk about today while we watch these video clips is my journey with my weight and my hypothyroid and my Hashimoto's, which is an autoimmune disease. And I don't know, I've just been feeling called to share my story with it. It's a long one. I'm going to try really hard to not make it long. There's just a lot to it though. And there's some stuff that I'm going to talk about that may seem unrelated. And I've learned in the last year or two that more things are related than what I thought they were. So I'm going to just try to get the past stuff in a nutshell. But before I get started, I do want to say, and I know, you hear this all the time when people share this kind of stuff, but I am not a health professional. This is just me sharing my experience, what I have learned. Some things that I talk about are kind of controversial in the hypothyroid Hashimoto's world. There's some disagreeing on some things like, of food intolerances and things like that. But this is what I have experienced, what I have learned and went through with my journey, my body, the doctors that I've worked with, what I have found that has worked best for me, and things like that. So that is purely what I'm doing here, is just sharing my story. And, if it helps you in any way, that's great. If you disagree with it, that's great too. We don't have to agree. This is just me sharing what I've went through. So let's get started. I got diagnosed when I was around the age of 16 with hypothyroid. And to be honest, well, let me say real quick too, and I'm so sorry, you guys, I'm going to bounce around. I'm going to remember things and it's just going to be a hot mess, I'm sure. But there's a difference between hypothyroid and hyperthyroid. So hypo is when your body does not produce enough TSH hormone and you're sluggish, fatigue, weight gain, constipation, things like that. And then hyper is when you have the opposite, where it produces too much and you'll have weight loss. You'll feel kind of like jittery, things like that. You have diarrhea and probably insomnia, things like that. And you can have both. I've had that where I kind of have toggled between, both. I've had times where I've had hypo, but then had hyper symptoms. It's just super fun stuff. But anyway, so that's when I got diagnosed. And to be honest, I don't even know exactly why I got diagnosed or what led up to it. The only thing that I can think of is that it was probably my bowels, because I never went to the bathroom. I had constipation. And I do always remember having fatigue, being tired. And I can remember when I was younger, I honestly, okay, let's just, again, I'm going to have a little note here. We're going to talk about a lot of poop. And I'm not going to talk in detail gross stuff, but there is going to be a lot of talk on what the bowel situations were, because that plays a huge part in all of it. So if you don't want to talk about poop, then this would be your time to just check out. Anyway, so I never went to the bathroom. It was normal for me from as long as I can remember to only have a bowel movement like once a week. And I don't know, I never felt super constipated. Like now I'm at a point in my life where if I did that, I would feel absolutely miserable. But I don't know, it just was normal for me. But I don't know. That's the only thing I can think of that led up to it. I don't really remember. But that's when I got diagnosed. And at that time, I got put on a thyroid medicine. It was probably either, I think it was Synthroid or levothyroxine. You know, it was one of the two. And that was just it. It was just, you know, you get diagnosed and then they give you this medicine. And then it's like, here, you have to take this for the rest of your life. And that's it. That's just all there is to it. Like, that's it. Nothing else. And so I thought that would be it. That would be it. Like that would cure the whole thing. And it doesn't. I'm not saying that it doesn't make your levels normal, because then after that, after you get on the medicine, you have to go back for a checkup to have your blood work done to check your levels again. And I think in the beginning they did it every 6 months. It's typically every 6 months to a year. But and even when the levels were normal, I noticed that I still always had the symptoms, and that was just the way it always was. I mean, that never changed. So that was frustrating. But I do remember going through a period where, and I don't remember when this was in my timeline here, but I think it was after I had my first son. I'm pretty sure it was. But I know at one point my thyroid had actually gotten enlarged a little bit where I could see it on the side of my neck. And then my levels got like really, really crazy high. And then they were wanting to check my blood work. And it happened so fast that they were wanting to check my blood work like every couple weeks. And that went on for a little while. And then I know that they kind of got it back to a normal range. They did like a ultrasound on it to check to see if it was cancerous, and it wasn't. So I know that there was a time period where that kind of stuff was going on, but the whole time it was just checking the levels, trying to get the levels to where they needed to be, and then just adjusting the levothyroxine or Synthroid to get it to where it needed to be. And that went on for quite a while. And then the whole time, like I said, you just still feel the same. Like I never felt better, but I just assumed that was just part of the deal and just kept going on. But anyway, so then in 2003, when I was 19, I was 18 or 19. I had my first son, and with him I had gained 70 pounds, but I had an okay pregnancy, like, you know, nothing like, I just remember with him the only thing health wise I really had was just that I gained a ton of weight. And then after I had him, I lost it for the most part. I got pretty well, not, I don't know if I was like all the way back down to where I started, but I was in a like a fairly healthy range. And then when I turned around 21 in 2005, that is where I started having like severe diarrhea. And it was, I would either be constipated or having diarrhea. So it would be like where I wouldn't go. And then I would just be like, it would be urgent. And then it would be just be like terrible. And I can remember at that point in my life where that went on for, I don't know, a few years. And I know at one point I went to a doctor. I don't even remember what they found, but I know at that point was when I couldn't even go in a car ride for 30 minutes without the fear of needing to pull over. And there were several times where I did have to pull over and like run off into the woods. Thank God we live in an area that I can be on long stretches of highway where I can just run off into the woods to go poop, because that was a thing. And that was a really bad time. I remember also what stands out to me at that time was I was working for the county extension office, and I was the 4-H like county youth coordinator. And so I worked at the fair, our county fair, a lot that fair week. I remember it was a Tuesday because it was the pig show, and I was supposed to be over doing something with the pigs. The show started at like 8 a.m. I had gotten to the fairgrounds at like 5:30 a.m. And even by 8 a.m., I was still having to constantly run over to the bathroom. And I ended up not being able to do my job very well that week because it was debilitating. It was so much of an inconvenience at the amount that I was going to the bathroom. And I was scared to eat anything. Like it just seemed like no matter what I ate, and this wasn't like me, like, oh, I'm just gonna go to the bathroom like this and then continue to like eat whatever I want. Like I was being so picky about what I was eating. And honestly, now looking back, I know that I was probably eating things that I thought were okay for me, but were actually triggering me based on what I know about my body now. So I have no idea exactly what it was. I don't even remember how it finally went away. But what I do know was that it seemed to get better with each pregnancy. So then in 2008, I had my second child. And with him, at that point I don't remember having a lot of stomach issues. It seemed to kind of work itself out a little bit by that point. But in him, I just gained like the normal amount. Like it was like 35 pounds, and then I think I lost it fine. I don't remember much when I was pregnant with him having a lot of issues other than just the normal like irritable bowel type stuff that I always had, but nothing super severe or anything like that. And then in 2010 and 2011, I gained a huge amount of weight. I know that I wasn't eating right and things like that, but I can't think of anything else, that happened. I mean, I know I went through a divorce, so maybe it was stress related also. I don't really know, but I gained a lot of weight. I at that point, so let me think. When I got pregnant with my second child, I probably weighed around, I don't know, maybe like 150, maybe 160, if I had to guess, on the high end. And then in 2010 and 11, when I gained all that weight, I believe I got up to 250 pounds. I started having severe headaches, like, and migraines. It got so bad that I had most days I was having a migraine. It would be where, I don't know, for people that have migraines know this, but sometimes the worst part is after the migraine's over, because once you get past the migraine, then you're just like dead ass tired and you're sluggish and you're trying to recover. And so what would happen is I would have a migraine for like a day or two, and then it would take me a couple days to recover from that migraine. And then I might have a day or two where I don't have a migraine, and then I would get another one. And it was just that reoccurring thing happened for I don't even know how long. But it got to the point where I remember I started having kind of like, when I would see like halos, or like, like like that kind of thing. Like when you like look at a light and then close your eyes, like you have that halo kind of look, whatever. I started noticing that I was having that. That it was just that at first, and then it got to where I would have almost like a total blackout on my peripheral vision, like just a flash. It would just be like a flash of like black, and then it would come back. And then I got to where it would like do that, and then it was like staying for a minute and then going, then coming back. That kind of went on and off for a little bit, and then what ended up happening just progressively got worse. So what happened was I got to the point where my eyes would go completely blacked out, like in a flash, to where I would be blacked out for a little bit. And I just remember, and now looking back, it makes me so sad for my kids because I was getting so heavy and I was having these migraines and I was losing my vision. And I just was a vegetable, and I was not in my best days at that time, to say the least. Anyway, I ended up going to see an eye doctor because it got so bad. I was like not able to ever see. They did a scan and they found out that my optical nerves had been like, my eyeballs basically were starting to like crush, and my optical nerves were damaged. I ended up having to go up to a bigger city, and they found that I had fluid in my spine, and then the fluid was going up into my brain. My brain was swelling, crushing my eyes. They ended up having to go in and do like a spinal tap or whatever and like drain this fluid out of my spine. So I ended up finding out that it was part of the problem. It was what they called it was intracranial idiopathic hypertension. And I may be saying that backward. It might be idiopathic. I think it's intracranial idiopathic hypertension. So the hormones for my birth control and the weight gain, and I don't know if I was gaining the weight from the hormones, but the two of them were causing this to happen. And so it was crucial at that time that I go off my hormones from the birth go off any type of birth control and lose the weight. So that's what I did. After that, I, went off birth control, and there were no options for birth control at the time that I could take. So it was just zero birth control. And then I, at that time, to lose weight, let's see, this would have been in like 2013 is when I started to lose the weight, and I lost 85 pounds. What I did for that was I used my Fitness Pal, I counted calories, I just walked. That's when I got into yoga and Pilates, a lot of like low impact type stuff. But I did not eat anything without recording it into my Fitness Pal. It worked really well. I lost the weight well. I didn't feel like pushed. I didn't feel like I was doing too much, or like it was getting obsessive or like unhealthy or anything like that. I felt like I was in a pretty good place. Like I said, I lost the weight. I got healthy. I lost the headaches and all that kind of stuff. This doesn't seem like it's related to the hypothyroid or the Hashimoto's, but I share it because what I'm going to say later when I find out about the Hashimoto's. Anyway, and through this, I still had the hypothyroid, still taking my medication. So with that, it does make weight loss extremely difficult. So losing 85 pounds with a hypothyroid, that's a pretty big deal to find a way that works for you. And so that was great. It ended up working out really well. I kept it off. And then I got pregnant again in 2016. And with him, I didn't really gain a lot of weight. I think it was just the normal, like 35, 40 pounds. I didn't have any issues with my pregnancy or anything like that. Like everything was good. And then with him, my water broke and everything. But then they got to where like we have to do an emergency C-section because he's not coming out. And then in the C-section is when I found out that I had a softball-sized cyst that had crushed one of my ovaries, and it was blocking his way out. And so that's when I started to learn about the next thing that I dealt with, which was ovarian cysts and dealing with that. So at that time, they, when they did my C-section, I did get my tubes tied at the time. So they took care of that. They left the ovary that was in there that was crushed because they said it was fine, but they went ahead and removed the cyst. And that's how that ended up being. So then after I had Sam is when I feel like things just went downhill for me health-wise, especially with my thyroid and the Hashimoto's and all this kind of stuff. I feel like this is when things happened, but I don't know. After I had Sam, I had pretty bad postpartum anxiety and depression. Now, let me just say, I have already had depression. I've taken Wellbutrin on and off for many, 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 many years, like since I was like in junior high. I've tried going without it, and it's just one of those things where I've always been better with it. But after I had Sam, when I had him, I was not on anything. And I remember at my checkup after I had him, it's like a 4-week checkup or whatever it is, was having pretty bad. You know what? I'm going to take that back. We had my checkup and I was fine. I thought that I would be fine and it would just pass. But I think it was like a few months after I had him that I finally caved and went to my doctor and was like, yeah, I need something because this anxiety is just absolutely terrible. I was getting panic attacks pretty regular. And I'm talking like, I don't know, a few a week. And for anybody that has had panic attacks, it is like the most scary thing ever. You're not going to die, but you feel like you're going to die. Like, it's just the scariest thing because I don't even know how to explain it, but it's the worst feeling because you literally feel like you are dying. You can't catch your breath and you're trying to mentally be like, you're fine, you're fine, you're fine, but you like can't catch your breath and breathe and you start crying. It's a nightmare. I was having them so bad that for days following that my chest would just ache from the tightness that I would have had like during one of my panic attacks. And I was just crying all the time. And I was just, I don't know. Like, I know you, like people say like postpartum depression, you have the baby blues and you just cry all the time. But that's really what mine was. I never had any thoughts of like harming Sam or anything like that. I know that that's a thing also. But I was just having that where I would just be like panicky and anxiety, panic attacks and crying. And I did have a lot of like, I had like intrusive thoughts, and I would also sometimes like I started to get into like self-harm kind of thoughts, not where I would actually do it, but just thoughts that would come in that I would be like, whoa, like, that's not good, kind of things like that. And that's just something that I've honestly had to work on and manage and take care of ever since I've had him. And he's 8 at this point. So I do want to just say real quick that I think people think that postpartum depression is just, and I've seen this a lot where they're like postpartum depression that first year. It's like, I'm sorry, but like it's been over a year. And I don't know if that's, I don't know, maybe that's just not talked about enough. And I think it's because people sometimes will see that and be like, oh man, I'm still dealing with this. Like that's not normal. And maybe it's not the norm, but I do think that people probably deal with it for longer than a year. It could be many years. It could be forever. I mean, there's so many things that happen to our bodies when we're pregnant, which again leads me to the Hashimoto's thing. I don't know. I for a very long time was embarrassed to talk about how I was feeling after I had Sam, and still, I mean, to this point, like talk about it because it's been so long. But I don't care. It is what it is. It's my truth. I'm not going to be embarrassed about it, and I'm going to be open about it. Maybe somebody will hear me say, "Hey, I'm still struggling," and they'll be like, feel better about the fact that maybe they're still struggling too. So it is what it is. But I mean, I'm doing well. I'm fine. I'm great and healthy and everything. But like I said, I have to take active measures and steps to take care of myself so that I don't fall down that deep dark hole and I feel good. So after I had Sam, I got on the medicine. I started to feel better, but I started to like gain weight. Like I just I assume that was probably from the anxiety and the stress. Like my cortisol levels, I'm sure were probably just like through the roof. But anyway, so after I had him and after I kind of got that under control a little bit, whether I wasn't having panic attacks and all that kind of stuff, is when I was starting to notice at the same time that I was having really bad periods and they were heavy. They honestly felt like I was going into labor. I was having like cysts like all throughout the month that were like bursting. I had them checked on x-rays. Sometimes they were just fluid filled, sometimes they were bloody. Like that was a thing. And they were painful and they took a lot out of me. I just felt drained and tired a lot of the time. Mind you, all this time I'm still doing my normal thyroid checkups and on my medicine. Levels are all normal, still having all the normal symptoms. Long story short, with the cyst, it ended up getting kind of bad. I ended up finding a large cyst on one of my sides. It was actually when I was doing the dishes and I was leaning up against the counter and I felt a lump, and then I started to see the lump and it got bigger and bigger. I ended up finding a doctor that was willing to help me. We ended up having to do like some biopsies on my uterus and my cervix and rule out all of these kinds of things. We did find another issue along the way. And then by the time that I ended up having surgery, my cyst had gotten up to the size of a baby's head. And so it was just decided at that point I was done having kids, obviously, because I'd already had my tubes tied. But we just went ahead and we didn't do a full hysterectomy. I did still have that one good ovary. And because I'm still fairly young, they decided to let me keep it so that for hormone reasons, so I didn't go into premenopause. So I got everything out except for my one good ovary. So that happened. And then I had my surgery in February of, let me think what year that was. I think it would have been 2022, I think, or 20, no, it was 2021. Yeah, it was 2021 in February. And then it was a few months after that that I found out that I have Hashimoto's disease. And it was kind of one of those things where after I got my hysterectomy, I was like, oh, great, finally. Like, I mean, I know this isn't anything to do with my thyroid, but like, I'm finally going to maybe start feeling good, like, because this has been taking so much out of me and it just makes my hormones crazy. And, the periods are awful and painful. And, it's just like going on all month long. And I'm finally going to start feeling good. And after that is when I didn't even remember what made me notice it. I think I was just really noticing my thyroid symptoms were maybe worse than normal. I know I had a lot of hair loss and the fatigue. I was having my tingling in my arms, like my arms and legs would fall asleep, especially at night. It would wake up and my arms would be numb. I would literally not have any feeling from like my bicep down in both arms. And when I would get up in the morning, it would just be like, it just hurt to walk on my feet. I felt like I was walking on like my bare bones. Like it just hurt so much. Anyway, so I just was having a lot of symptoms like that: weight gain, constipation, like, still having anxiety and depression, like just lots of stuff, like brain fog. I mean, there's just so many symptoms. And I was just feeling pretty bad. I was getting ready to have my normal thyroid checkup, and I had seen something about Hashimoto's, and I'd seen it like a bunch of times. And so I was like, well, I don't have Hashimoto's, but I always hear about people who have hypothyroid or that also have Hashimoto's. So, I don't know, maybe I do. And so I was looking up the symptoms, and it was when I was reading over this list of symptoms that I was like, I don't know. I mean, like, that sounds like I may have Hashimoto's. And so I was like, well, I'm just going to have them check it when I go into my next appointment. And so I went in and I was like, I want to request that I have my normal TSH, T3, T4, which is all things that they test when they do your thyroid panels. I said I want to have those checked, as well as having my antibodies checked, which is what determines whether or not you have Hashimoto's, if your antibodies are normal. I think at this point, or before, I can't remember exactly when, but at one point I did have them check my vitamin D levels, because I was thinking that maybe that was part of why I was so tired all the time, and I was pretty deficient in vitamin D, so I supplement for that. But I don't know. I think it's because I don't eat a lot of dairy, because I know dairy bothers me with the whole irritable bowel syndrome stuff. And so I went ahead and had them check as much as they could on like vitamin mineral deficiencies and things like that, which honestly wasn't very much that they could do. So I got a phone call, I don't know, a few days after I had them check my antibodies, and they confirmed that I do have Hashimoto's. I was like, oh, okay. Well, I wondered, if I did, because the symptoms I was having and whatever. I was like, so what do I need to do? What do I do different? Or what do I need to start doing, or whatever? And it was just like, nothing, just keep taking your thyroid medicine that you've been taking. And I'm like, that's it? Like, it's like, I mean, at this point, I am like 40 years old, and I've been taking thyroid medication daily since I was 16. So I don't think it's helping. Like, you know what I mean? Like, if I'm getting Hashimoto's, like, obviously the medicine's not doing anything. It just doesn't sound right to me. And so I did my own research and just kind of found out that, people who have Hashimoto's definitely should not be eating gluten and some things like that. So I started just to do my own research and do what I could with what I was learning. I did notice the difference when I cut out gluten. And then I had to go into the doctor again for something else. I think it was when I got a parasite from eating salad, actually, which that's the story for another day. That was bad. Anyway, but I went to the doctor and I was like, what do I need to be doing with my Hashimoto's? Like, I've read that like diet and lifestyle changes could, I don't know if it fixes it. I don't know that I don't think you can like get rid of it, but is it something that I can be doing to help the symptoms or help get my antibody levels back to normal? What could I be doing? And they're like, no, there's nothing like that you can be doing. I mean, it was like, honestly, I wasn't surprised, because I'm just going to be honest with you. In all my years of having a hypothyroid, it is something that is extremely difficult to find good help with. If you're a doctor and you're listening to this, like, I'm not at all insulting doctors, but it is one of those things where I feel like unless you're seeing somebody who is specifically for thyroids, then it's not helpful at all. Like, you leave with nothing except like a prescription for like Synthroid or levothyroxine, which isn't even helping. So it's just so incredibly frustrating. And so I left feeling again frustrated. And honestly, I haven't even went into all my frustration experiences with this kind of stuff. I have drove hours to doctors hoping to get some help with things, and then just to get there and then just do nothing. I mean, it's so frustrating. But anyway, so I just decided to keep doing my own thing and just try to learn as much as I could about it and change my diet and things like that. I did that and honestly, I wasn't perfect. I would be like, okay, I'd have a little bit of gluten here and there, like, but I was just trying to do whatever I could, like, with what I was learning. It was somewhere after a year, I think, of having Hashimoto's that I discovered a doctor on YouTube, actually. And I had watched him probably for, I don't know, I mean, maybe not quite a year. And he was just so incredibly helpful. And he always talked about hypothyroid, and Hashimoto's. And so I just started binge watching his videos, and I have never in my life found a doctor who talk to me in a way that I understood and that I could relate to. Like, he understood the struggles. You know, it was the first time that I've ever heard a doctor talk where I felt like, yes, that, like that, exactly what you just said. Like, yes, that is exactly what I struggle with. It's so nice to hear somebody finally say that and not feel like a crazy person. And so I just really started watching his videos and getting as much from them as I could. And in one of his videos, at one point, I heard him say, you know, if you guys ever want to have a one-on-one consultation, like shoot me an email or whatever. And so I was like, yeah, I'm on it. Like, and this doctor is like thousands and thousands of miles away from me, like almost like like halfway across the country. I was like, but if I can like get with him on email or something, like that would be fantastic. I ended up going back and forth with him a little bit on emails. We had a consultation. We ended up doing weekly Zoom calls for I think it was like 10 weeks or something like that. And I won't go too far into it, but he ended up sending over a blood panel for me to have done, and it was the most extensive blood work panel I've ever had done in my life. And that right there alone, like just starting, I was like, he's already done more for me than any doctor ever, because I've never had this many things tested, and it's crucial to have done. At the time, in fact, this is just another frustrating story regarding the doctor visits that I had. When I called to get my numbers ready for him, I called my doctor's office that I have always gone to, and I was like, I wanted to get my numbers, like I said, I want to give me like the last lab numbers that I've had for the last, like, I don't know, year or two or whatever it was. When I called, they gave them to me, and then the last two, after I had found out that I had Hashimoto's, didn't have antibody levels on it. And I was like, okay, so after you found out that I had Hashimoto's, then the next two times that I came in for my blood work, you guys didn't test my antibody levels? And they were like, nope, we don't have that here on file. And I'm like, okay, so I didn't specifically request it. But to me, it's like, if you know now that I have Hashimoto's disease, why are you not testing them every time I come in every 6 months for blood work? And not only that, I know for a fact when they called me with those two results from my thyroid panel, and I asked them how my antibody levels were, they said they were still the same. They told me that, but then they didn't actually even test them. So that was incredibly frustrating. And it was probably at that point that I was like, yeah, no, I'm like done. I'm done having just, you know, a regular doctor handle my thyroid. But anyway, so he did this extensive blood work panel. I found out some things about my blood and things like that were going on that I had no idea were going on. And it was through working with him each week that he worked for me specifically. One thing that he always says is, it's like, you know, it's not about just about the lab numbers, and that's exactly it, is that it's not just what your TSH levels are. You know, you can have those levels be normal, but there's underlying problems that are going on that don't show up in a normal thyroid panel. Kind of where the Hashimoto's things comes in, because the thing is, what the difference is so hypothyroid and hyperthyroid is when your thyroid is not producing enough hormone or producing too much hormone. What Hashimoto's is it is an autoimmune disease where your body is attacking the thyroid. So when you take a medicine like levothyroxine or Synthroid, that is to help your thyroid produce the hormone it needs, or not as much hormone, whatever. It's to regulate your thyroid hormone levels. Your Hashimoto's is just an autoimmune disease that's attacking the thyroid. So taking medicine to help your thyroid is doing absolutely nothing for the Hashimoto's. In fact, your medicine that you're taking can't even work properly because you have an autoimmune disease that's just attacking the thyroid. And unless you get the Hashimoto's under control, then your medicine is just pointless. That's the thing is, but when you go to the doctor, they don't tell you that. You're just like, oh, well, just keep taking your medicine and that's it. No, that's not it. And it's just incredibly frustrating to me because, like, yeah, me, like, I love to research things and I'll go out and find answers. And if I find out something's going on with my body or whatever, I'm going to research the heck out of it. But I know that there's a lot of people that don't do that or may not have the resources to do that, and they just trust their doctor. It's just so frustrating to experience those things and to know how many people are probably suffering just because they don't know any better. And that's not right. But I'm gonna not go on to that rant anymore. But anyway, Yeah, so I learned that with the Hashimoto's that it's not even it's related to your thyroid, but it's not, if that makes sense. So anyway, working with him, I did a lot of diet changes. I cut out dairy and soy, which I'd already kind of done, gluten and strict no gluten, not like oh, I had a little bit here and there. I did learn that it's absolutely no gluten. And this is a controversial thing. There have people that have been like, there is no scientific study showing that gluten does anything, blah 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 blah. Whatever, it could be true. I don't know, but I just know from my experience that when I've cut out gluten, I feel better. And I have had a doctor tell me that it actually does affect my thyroid function, so I'm not going to eat it. So gluten, dairy, soy, processed sugar, grains. I and people are like, oh my god, like what do you eat? So I basically went down to eating like meat, eggs, fruits and veg. And even with the fruits and veg, I did learn that raw is not great. I had a lot of bloating and things from that, so better cooked. Anyway, so over this last year, like I said, I started working with him in February. And since then, so in like the 10 weeks that we worked together, I think I dropped 26 pounds and I've kept it off. And after we ended our like Zoom call session, I did kind of get back into like eating sugar. I actually messaged him a few weeks ago because I wanted to try incorporating some things since my body had healed to see how I handled dairy and things like that. I kind of started adding a little bit of dairy in the form of like hard cheese and stuff. And I ended up messaging him and I was like, I am having like terrible fatigue and crashes in the afternoon. I noticed that I'm craving more sugar. I don't know if I'm having fatigue from craving the sugar or if I'm needing the sugar because I'm fatigued. I feel like I'm in this vicious circle. I've also kind of tried to add in like some more dairy, like, what's going on? Like, what do you suggest? Here are all the symptoms that I'm having. And just in a short amount of time, I know I did expect after I added the dairy in to have like, stomach issues like bloating, gas, diarrhea, that kind of stuff. But I didn't really have any of that. But I was noticing the fatigue, tingling in my arms. My breasts were so sore. I'm trying to think what else. I had a couple different ones, and he was like, absolutely sounds like you're having a dairy issue, whatever. And so I was like, wow, I never would have connected those symptoms to dairy. So, yeah, I guess, whatever. And so I just cut it right back out. And within like 24 hours, those symptoms were back gone again. And so I'm still working on finding my groove, I guess, but it has been a long process. But I am so incredibly thankful that I found that doctor because he has completely changed my life and the way I look at food. And it takes me back to, what I was saying to that doctor, like, what can I do to help things? And them telling me that lifestyle and diet changes don't help. And that's just not true. And I've learned that over the last year. And like I said, up until even like a month or two ago, I was still like eating salads, and I've just recently discovered a new way of eating that is even leading me into another change, which I don't want to talk too much about right now because I'm still new to it and still trying some things out. Which I will say with that though, I just in the last couple of weeks really kind of like did a deep dive into this new way of eating. And while I was doing that, I found a video from my doctor that I've been talking about on the topic. And I was like, oh, sweet. Like, I want to see what he has to say about it because I value his opinion, obviously, more than anybody else's. And so I got to, see what he said about it, which confirmed what I was already kind of thinking and doing. So that's been good. But anyway, I'll share more about that later. I just want to wait until I've been in it for a little bit to share what I've been learning and things like that. But I guess I don't know. This has just been my experience with everything that's going on. And like I said, I know I'm not like, oh, and this is everything that worked and I'm totally cured. And I'm not. And this is something that I'll deal with for literally the rest of my life. And, it could change like with age. Like it could be something I'm eating now I can't eat later. I may just get to a point where I'm just like, I don't know, on like a water fast. But no, that was a joke, obviously. But anyway, like I said, I'm not totally cured. I don't have everything figured out. I'm still on this journey and I'm still working with this doctor. Actually, with life happening, I need to go get my second blood work done to see what changes we've had and continue working with him. But I guess with that being said, one thing that I would like to put out there that I know can be so frustrating with all of this is, especially when you feel like you can't find anybody that's like helping you. My advice to that is to obviously don't stop until you can find somebody to help you. And I am going to link my doctor's YouTube channel in the description because I want to give him the biggest shout out. It's Dr. Brad Bodle. I don't know if I'm allowed to say his name in a video. I don't know, but I am because he's great. Check him out. If you struggle with any of this stuff, I highly, highly recommend, no matter where you're at in the world, to reach out to him because he, like I said, he's half across the country from me and he helped me. So I know he can help anybody no matter where you're at. But anyway, my advice is to not stop looking for help. If a doctor is not helping you, go to a different doctor. If that doctor is not helping you, go to a different doctor and just keep doing that until you find somebody that helps you, because I promise you there is help out there. I went through literal decades of just feeling extremely frustrated with doctors not helping me and knowing that I didn't feel right. We know our bodies. We know when we don't feel the way that we're supposed to, and trust yourself and the way that you feel. You know your body better than anybody else, despite what a doctor says. So if you feel like you don't feel right, then find a doctor that's going to help you and do everything they can to help you and not just like brush you off. So that's my advice about that. My other thing is I know we want a quick fix, but it's just not the case. Like it takes our bodies have been going through things for years and it's not going to heal overnight. And it takes a long time to reverse years of all the troubles that we've had. So just be patient with yourself and give yourself some grace. Just take it one day at a time, and you're going to have setbacks. I've had times where, like with the holidays, and that's probably why I'm talking about this right now, with the holidays, Thanksgiving happening just now and Christmas coming, I ate too much sugar. I started to feel crappy again. It's a hard time of year. It's a hard time, to stick to your diet when you're around so many things. Like, give yourself some grace. If you mess up and things aren't perfect, it's fine. Like, life happens. Just like get right back on. And just don't expect things to change overnight, because it's not going to. Like I said, I've been working with this doctor for February will be a year since I started working with him. At the time, it's so daunting to think about, but now looking back, I'm like, I don't care if it took me 10 years to work with him to get it right. I'm going to do it because it is so worth it once you find somebody to help you. And it's so worth it once you start finding things to do differently with your body that you notice changes. And, honestly, some of these things, you'll be surprised at how quickly it helps. Like me cutting out that dairy again. My body had healed enough at that point that I was able to bounce back after just a couple days, where before I started working with this doctor, I've talked to him about this many times, is before we start working together, if I had gluten or too much sugar or a flare up of any kind, there would be times where it would take me at least a week or two, sometimes months, to bounce back from that. And so just to see that after a year of working with him, that my body's healed enough in a way that if I do slip up or things happen or, whatever, I can bounce back quicker. Even though things aren't perfect, it's so, so nice to see that things are getting better. And you just can't expect that kind of stuff to happen overnight. But one thing I did want to say that I forgot to touch on is with the Hashimoto's. I am not 100% sure on this, but from what I've read and learned, it seems to be that Hashimoto's is triggered by something. I don't know. Like I said, I may not be as educated on this as much as I could be or should be, but from what I've read on this, it sounds like Hashimoto's is something that gets triggered by something that happens. Like, so it could be a pregnancy, it could be like something that happens with your body. It could be my hysterectomy, it could be something like that. So the reason I shared all that past stuff is because I don't know when my Hashimoto's actually started, for many reasons. One, because I don't know if that's true, what one of those things actually triggered it. What was it? Was it like a severe weight loss? Was it a pregnancy? I had 3 pregnancies. Was it one of those? Was it the postpartum anxiety and depression? Was it the cysts and hysterectomy that I had? I have no idea what triggered it. And I think if when they were testing my thyroid, if it was testing your antibodies was always part of a thyroid panel checkup, I think it would be much easier for people to pinpoint, what triggered it, what caused the Hashimoto's. To be honest, I don't know why, because it's related to your thyroid, why it's not just automatically part of a thyroid panel. I have no idea. But if I could go back in time knowing what I know now, not only would I have fought harder for myself, but I would have requested a Hashimoto's antibody test with every single thyroid panel that I ever had, so that I could have, maybe tackled some of this stuff a long time ago. But anyway, this video is getting kind of long, and I think I touched on everything that I was going to say. I'm sure I'll think of something when I get off of here. But that's it. Like I said, I'm sorry that I don't have some like answer. If you were looking into this video for like, oh gosh, I'm looking for an answer, I don't have an answer, unfortunately. But all of our bodies are different. My thyroid Hashimoto's journey is going to be completely different than somebody else's, which is again why I love Dr. Brad so much, because he doesn't treat people for their numbers. He treats them for them as a patient, but he is so great about not only working with you with your numbers and your blood work, panels and things like that, but with your lifestyle. Each week we would talk about like, he would say like, how's this going? How's this, how's your sleeping going? Like, all these different kinds of things. And then he would be like, okay, well, let's try this week or whatever. We talked so little about my actual TSH numbers. It was based on how I was feeling, like what was going on, my bowels. Like that was something. If you don't want to talk about poop with anybody, then I don't know what to tell you. You got to toughen up and just get over that, because you and Dr. Brad are going to talk about some poop. But it's important. But anyway, and he provides you with all the supplements and everything like that that you need. So he was asking you about how you were handling those, and he incorporated them in, at a slow pace, and he treats you as a patient. And I think that you yourself also need to understand that as you're looking at stuff online and looking for answers, is that what works for other people isn't going to work for you necessarily. So with that being said, I know that I don't provide, you with some magical answer to fix anything that you may be having with weight loss or Hashimoto's or thyroid or anything like that. But I do hope that by sharing my story, and I will continue to share this, like I said, after I, figure out if this new thing that I'm doing is working, I'll share it. In the future, it'll always be something that I talk about openly. I do hope that by sharing it does provide something. Maybe there was, something that I said that might be like, oh, well, maybe I should try that. Maybe I should try cutting out gluten, and that might be the thing for you. That might just be the thing that your body is like needing. I don't know, but I just do hope that by sharing this and being open about my story, I just hope that it helps you with anything that you might be dealing with, or someone who you're related to or somebody you care about is dealing with, and you're having a hard time understanding what they're dealing with. I will say, that's one of the things is like, I don't know anybody else locally or close to me that has these same issues. And so it's hard a lot of the time to get people to understand. I'm not saying that they're not supportive, but people just don't understand. It's confusing to people and things like that. So it's easy sometimes to feel alone. If I can help anybody to feel less alone by sharing that, then that's all I want. And if there's anything that I talked about, whether it's, I don't care what it's about, if it's pregnancy related, weight loss related, my eyeballs being crushed related, poop related, hypothyroid, Hashimoto's related, I don't care. But anything I talked about today, like if there's anything in there that you have questions about or anything like that that I can help further with, just leave me a comment and I would love to help with that. So, but definitely take a minute and click on the link in my description and go check out Dr. Brad. He is amazing, and he can explain things so well. I definitely recommend, if you are uneducated in any way about hypothyroid or Hashimoto's and want to learn more about it in a way that you can understand, I highly recommend checking out his video. But anyway, sorry I didn't share more about Christmas, but I did wrap some Christmas presents in this video. So, it wasn't totally not Christmas related. But anyway, I'm going to head into getting the house ready for Christmas. And then next week, we are going to start getting cleaned up. I got some recycling to clean up. I'm going to go through Christmas decorations and get those all just like organized and decluttered. So I have that coming up for you in the next couple weeks. But I hope you all enjoy your Christmas season, and I hope you all have a great time with family and friends for the holiday. And I just wish you all the best Christmas ever.